I'm Chris Jaggers, co-founder of Learning Machine, and we help institutions issue official records using the blockchain in a format that is tamper-proof, recipient-owned, and instantly verifiable. This means that people can hold their official records and use them directly in the world without having to rely on institutions to transmit them on their behalf. We think this is a really big deal that's going to transform every industry, and today I'm going to talk to you about how it's going to affect educational records specifically. First, let's take a look at the problem. It's well known that there's hundreds of thousands of fake degrees issued every year that are known about. That means there's many more that are not known about. And 50% of all PhDs in America alone have been purchased, not earned. The way this translates into the job market is it's estimated that 30% of all job applicants outright lie or mislead employers directly about their educational history. And more generally, the Federal Trade Commission has estimated that fraud cost Americans $744 million last year alone. And fraud is a big category. It includes identity theft, but most notably, it includes the fastest growing source of fraud is imposters, people pretending to be someone else, often using fake credentials. So these numbers add a little bit of color to the problem, but not being able to trust digital records as authentic is so fundamental that I actually don't think it can be quantified. So let's take a look at the solution within educational records. Let's start with the typical university diploma. Because this can be a digital record, it can be inscribed with metadata, like a transcript of grades, skills equivalencies, whatever you like. And it has all the benefits of a digital record in that it's easy to use, it generates analytics, it's machine readable. But we're taking it a step further using traditional cryptography techniques. This document can be converted down into a single string of numbers and letters called a hash that represent this document's unique fingerprint. No other document has it. If you were to change just one piece of data in the document or even one pixel in the image, it would generate an entirely different hash. So there's no way to infer what kind of private information is behind this hash. The question is, where do you store this hash? Traditionally, this has been stored with a centralized authority who would be consulted later if a document needed to be verified. Does this document in the world generate this hash that's being stored with the central authority? That's often a time-consuming and costly process. But now we have a new technical infrastructure called the blockchain, which is a global decentralized network of computers that was invented to record the transactions of digital money. But what is money other than symbolic value? If I give you a diploma, I've given you something of value. That's a transaction that can be time-stamped and recorded on the blockchain. Then when you go out and use it in the world, anyone can use an independent lookup service to see if that document you have resolves to the same hash that's stored on the blockchain. This makes verification able to happen instantly between strangers or even across sovereign borders. But the convenience alone is not the only benefit. Using a decentralized network for verification has incredible security benefits. When centralized authorities collapse, people lose their identity. In Syria today, we have 5 million people that can't prove who they are. They can't prove that they're doctors and lawyers. They can't prove that they went to the University of Aleppo. They're basically, they have no identity. And this is related to a separate problem, which is lack of ownership. I'd argue that if you don't actually possess your records and use them in a format that is effective, you don't actually own them. Fortunately today, with the ubiquity of mobile phones, we have a very convenient way to generate public-private key pairs. This is also just a string of numbers and letters that can act as a surrogate for your identity. So anyone you want to receive official records from, you can send them your public key. And because that gets written into the digital record and sent back to you, you can always demonstrate ownership of it with the corresponding private key, which is stored on the phone. Because this technology is so fundamental, we didn't want to try to commercialize it right away, but rather try to make it ubiquitous and drive towards a standards-driven future to ensure the interoperability and longevity of these documents. So throughout 2016, Learning Machine and MIT collaborated on an open source toolkit and standard called Certs, which you can find at blockcerts.org, that provides all the patterns for creating, issuing, and verifying blockchain-based records. This is released under the open source license, and it's free for any school or vendor or researcher to use. A community continues to build around it, and now we're weaving it into existing standards bodies and networks like the W3C, IMS Global, Connected Credentials, to make sure it becomes part of that invisible foundation that makes everything work seamlessly. In 2017, we're rolling out commercial product, the first of which is what we call an issuing workspace, where schools can import their recipients, design their academic records, schedule their issuance, and track their use so they can actually see how their records are being used in the world. For larger customers that have a federation of accounts that they need to manage, we have a governance layer where they can provision workspaces, monitor users, and most importantly, see an aggregate roll-up of analytics from across their ecosystem. And then we want to evolve this into a white label engine, which is a sophisticated set of private APIs that vendors could use that may be sector leaders, they may have thousands of customers, but not the ability to re-platform their product offering. So they'll be able to take this engine, customize it for themselves, and offer it as their own product. So we've got open source, plug and play product, white label engine. In 2017, we're rolling out a variety of commercial pilots across schools, companies, and governments. MIT will be issuing their diplomas this June, and the Republic of Malta is rolling this out across their educational ecosystem that includes higher education, vocational training, even government training. So it'll be a great case study for how to roll this out at a nation-state level, a great model for all the other countries that are looking to uplift their social infrastructure. The benefits to issuers are pretty clear. They get improved relations with their community. People love getting their records in a format they can own and use. They get fraud protection. So MIT has people pretending to graduate from them with this new type of record. People will not be able to impersonate that they've graduated from MIT because those records won't verify. And lastly, schools get a new layer of marketing and analytics to see how their degrees are being used in the world. However, I think the most fundamental benefits are actually for the recipients who can now build a lifelong learning record from across all the education providers that they may attend, and also benefits for the verifiers that can instantly know whether a document is verified or not. If you'd like to learn more, you can go to learningmachine.com. We're not currently fundraising, but we are always looking to develop relationships with partners who share our values. If you'd like to contact me directly, my email is chris@learningmachine.com.